After the speech. Yeah, I'll get it easy now.
So,
I'm sorry.
I remember I had someone approach me. They said they want to convert to Judaism, but they're not ready to keep Shabbos, they're not ready to this, that. I said, it can't really help you, you have to couple mitzvahs, and whatever it means, Kabbalah's and mitzvahs, we could talk about it another time, but Parshas, it's not. He said that he wants to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. Like Bilam said, Thomas Nafshi Mois Yisharim, Ati Acharisa Kamoyu. He says, I want to die the death of the upright, and my end should be like them. I know a lot of people, Baruch Hashem, at least, when it comes to the end, they want to do things right. They ask, whatever it is, they want an Orthodox funeral. They could live their whole life reform, and they want an Orthodox funeral. Unfortunately, now you have a lot of people who are not like that. Unfortunately, they want to be cremated. I couldn't believe it, a website of a Jewish funeral home. It was talking about Jewish cremation, and it had, an urn for ashes with a Magen David on it, and I couldn't believe it was such a thing. They were trying to convince them not to do it, but they said, if that's your choice, we're here to serve you also. But then they were saying, even a Sefer Torah, we bury a Sefer Torah because it's treated like a human being. So doesn't a human being deserve more than a book? But sometimes they're not zocher to it, I guess. I don't know. It's a sad thing. But Baruch Hashem, a lot of people want to have Pati Achrisi Kamoyu, Thomas Nafshi Mois Yisharim, Pati Achrisi Kamoyu. But the Maran, the Beis Yosef, he wrote the Sefer Magid Mesharim that he channeled from an angel, from a Magid. That was a reflection of his higher being, that he was able to have revelations from this Magid. And one of the things the Magid told him was that he was going to die. He was going to give his life al Kiddush Hashem. And he came to a ripe old age, and he saw it didn't happen, and he didn't die a martyr's death. So then he asked the Malach, "What is this?" He asked the Magid, "What is this?" I thought I was going to give my life al Kiddush Hashem. He said, "You did give your life al Kiddush Hashem. Your whole life was al Kiddush Hashem. It doesn't have to be a violent death." First of all, the Rebbe Melech writes in the Zettel Cotton, and it's brought in before him. It's not his chiddush that when you say Kriya Shema, you should picture yourself as if you're giving your life al Kiddush Hashem, accepting Dal Mises Bezdin, the Arizal has by the Kriya Shema Shel Arvis, so the Kriya Shema Shel Amita, to picture what it's like to go through that. Same thing at the first bracha of Shemon Esrei, when we say the word Ba'ahava, when we say the word that for the sake L'man Shemo B'Yahava, for the sake of God's name, with love, that we should have in mind that we're accepting on ourselves the four forms of the death penalty, the Arba Mises Bezdin, the four forms of death penalty that were given by the Sanhedrin, by the High Court in Jerusalem. Similarly, to have in mind to be giving al Kiddush Hashem, and that's the pshat in Tilim. It says that we're dying for you, we're killed for you every day, all day. That we can have in mind that idea, and through that, it says in the Zettel Cotton, the Rebbe Melech says that it's considered as if we fulfilled that mitzvah of Nikdashti, that mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, of giving our life as a martyr. But it's more than that. So I'd say have in mind, and that's a noble thing. He says even when you're sitting and you're not doing anything, and you have nothing to do, you can even have this in mind and fulfill that mitzvah. That you're not, and then you're not sitting and doing nothing, but rather you're fulfilling a mitzvah constantly. So the Thomas Nafshi Mois Yisharim doesn't have to be, you can live a life it doesn't have to be that only the end should be good. The whole life can be living like that, and through that we can start new all the time. That and so that's something that's we can take with us all the time. Think about that, but it could get depressing. So how do you balance that? So not to get depressed, chas v'shalom adarabah, because then we're born new, we're katan shenoilad after that, we're fresh and we're cleansed. It's as if we accepted it. It's a gewaldige simcha. And but more than that, we read last week It says Zoysa Torah Adam Kiyamas Ba'oil, that this is the Torah when a man dies in the tent. Ohel Shel Torah, that meaning Ein Divrei Torah Miskayim Al Misha Mei Misatzmei Aleim. That in order for that it says this is the Torah, it doesn't say Zos Chukas Torah Adam Kiyamas Ba'oil. This is the statute, the mystery of the Torah, that when a man dies in the tent, it means that, and the Medrash says that that Torah exists by someone who kills himself over the Torah, not Chas v'Shalom, actually killing himself, but rather that whatever he has, he puts it aside. His own things, he considers as if it's not, and he's dedicating himself to God. But the fact is that they're both the same. That we can start new, no matter what happened before. That can all be dead, and we can start new and be born new every minute. Every time we daven Shemon Esrei, every time we say Kriya Shema, we say Shemon Esrei 3 or 4 times a day. We say Kriya Shema twice a day. Every time we can have in mind that mitzvah of Nikdashti, and even any other time. There's more than that. What does it mean? Thomas Nafshi Mois Yishorim. That we have a Gemara in the Verdezara Daf Chaf Hey, that it brings that several times in Tanakh. There's mention of a Sefer HaYashar. There's that's quoted in Tanakh, a Sefer HaYashar. It says Kosuv v'Sefer. It's written in Sefer HaYashar. And there's a medrash called Sefer HaYashar. It's most probably not the original Sefer HaYashar. I heard Rabbi Victor Miller's when he said that it's not the authentic Sefer HaYashar. And it's not even an authoritative medrash, according to what he said. But it's still something that people learn. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's not considered authoritative. But the Gemara says the Sefer HaYashar, and there's also a Musar Sefer HaYashar from Rabbeinu Tam, that's something else. But the Gemara says one opinion, the Sefer HaYashar is the Sefer of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Sefer Bereshis, the first book of the Torah, the book of Genesis, is called Sefer HaYashar, the book of the upright. Why? Because Bilam called Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov Yesharim, the upright ones. When he said Thomas Nafshi Mois Yesharim, he said specifically he wanted to die in the way that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov died. And he called them Yesharim. And Rav Simchah Zisel Brody, the Chevron Rosh Yeshivah, he notes something, that he doesn't call them Tzadikim, Chasidim, Talmidei Chachamim, he calls them Yesharim. The Avos were called Yesharim. Why were they called Yesharim? By a goy, by Bilam. Bilam called them Yesharim because Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they didn't live in a Hamish neighborhood. They didn't live in a ghetto. They lived in the world. Particularly Avram and Yaakov, for sure. Yitzchak a little bit less, but he also interacted with the outside world. But Avram and Yaakov were out in the world. They weren't interacting with people who were of their same faith, for the most part. Somewhat, but not. Avraham, he had his Talmidim. But he was mostly interacting with people of other faiths, of very foreign faiths, much more foreign than the faiths that we see of our neighbors. And yet, they could all testify. Even Bilam, who was a wicked sorcerer, said Abraham was a Yashar. He was an upright person. He was an honest person. That's what's important. Baruch Hashem, I'm preaching to the choir here. We have here people who don't need to hear Musar, but maybe, I don't know, who knows who's going to listen to this on the computer. Probably also good people if you're going to listen to it. But Sof Kal Sof, it's very difficult here in the summer. A lot of people, I don't want to be mekatrik chas v'sholem, but it's very difficult, with the way the world looks at Ilan. It's not their fault, The Rambam says that the person is nimshach achar sviva, a person's influenced by his environment, and when people they live a whole year in the city, they get influenced by a city. But a lot of people, they don't realize that it's a city mentality. They confuse that with being Jewish. And it makes a big chilul Hashem. People get very upset. You hear comments that people make in Walmart and ShopRite and different places. And everyone here, Baruch Hashem, are all good, nice people who do the right things. And, when you see someone, you make sure you put your cart back where it belongs. And you see, you have a lot of packages, and you see a local, a non-Jew, has one or two things, you let him go in front. I'm sure everyone here does this. Other people might need to know to do that. I know someone very well who was sitting on a subway once, and she a non-Jewish girl, and a Chassidish couple came in, and they sat and the lady sat next to her, the wife sat next to her, and this girl just lost her job, and this lady asked, and she was crying a few little tears, small tiny tears, and this Hasidic lady asked, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "No, nothing, whatever, just lost a job, it's no big deal, whatever it is." It's very sensitive to even notice a little tears like that. And they schmoozed for a few minutes, nothing about spirituality, nothing about Torah, nothing about Judaism. And then the lady got off, the next stop, and that was it. They never saw each other again, but this girl was so impressed. What's this? She grew up trying to find herself, trying to find a spiritual path in her life, traveled different places, traveled all over the country, spent time in Europe. She couldn't find anything, and she knew from the way this lady's husband was dressed, how she was dressed, they were Hasidic Jews. She looked up, what's this Hasidic Judaism? Later on she converted. She has now 3 beautiful daughters who go to Hasidic schools, and she has a husband who talks too much and is standing here. And that's how it is. That you don't know, a little Kiddush Hashem you can make. And it can make Yiddish Adoris, what you can do, what you can accomplish. This lady didn't even chap what she did, talking to some non-Jewish girl on the subway, being nice to her for a few minutes. But she was Yoshar. She did the right thing. She had the sensitivity. And that made the Kiddush Hashem of, like we said, Avram is a Nefesh Asher Asaf B'char, and we don't even realize what's going on. What we can do with Gevaldik, with wonderful people we have, and all of us, I'm sure, don't even realize, everyone who's sitting here are all good people, B'nai Aliyah. I'm sure they've all accomplished big things and bigger things than this, and they don't even realize what they accomplished, because they don't know what kind of Kiddush Hashem they made, because I know we all have nice people here. This is Thomas Nafshi Mois Yisharim. Today was the Yartzeit of a tzaddik, it was the Klausenberger Rov, and we have his Hasidim in the area, his Talmidim, and he was someone who was a Yashar. Take, he opened a hospital, Aniano Hospital, in Eretz Yisrael, and he said, I don't want anyone to, don't take advantage of someone's situation. Don't push, doing mitzvahs, because people, they're desperate, and they're sick, and they're depressed, and maybe most people would think, Yechaparein, make them frum. It's not the most important thing at that point, It's the ashrus. That's the first thing. If someone asks for it, of course you give it, adarabah. But they're not pushing it. And it's interesting, I said, even Bilam, he asked, Tamus Nafshi Mois Yisharim. This is a nice word I saw brought from the Klausenberger Rov, that we say it's not too long till Elul, The summer is very early this year, everything's early this year. And what did we say? Achesh Alti Meis Hashem, Oisa Avake, Shifti V'Veis Hashem, Koli Mechayai, Lachsis B'Noyim Hashem, Levake Beichaloi. This is one thing I ask from Hashem, this is what I desire, this I request, this I should request. Oisa Avake, Shifti V'Veis Hashem, Koli Mechayai, I should sit in the house of Hashem all the days of my life, to Lachsis B'Noyim Hashem, to see the pleasantness of Hashem, Levake Beichaloi, to visit in His temple. What's going on? He says, I'm asking for one thing. Oisavakesh, this I should beg. And then he lists 3 things. What's going on? So the one thing he's asking, really, Achashvalti, is Oisavakesh. The fact that we're Mavakshim, that is the key to everything. Dir Shu Hashem b'msoi, Mavakshe Hashem. We have to be that we Mavakshe Hashem, that we're asking. Even Bilam was asking. For if Bilam could ask, we also have to ask. We shouldn't rest on our laurels. That's the point. It's one thing, yes. We should be Mavakshem, even if we're not holding there yet. At least we want to be good. That's already a level. We shouldn't look down on the fact that Bilam asked for that, because it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. And even us, even we think we're doing what's wrong, we're keeping Shabbos kosher, we're doing things, we still have to be Mavakshim. We still have to say that Oisa Vakesh. We can't rest on our laurels, we can't imagine and think that we're doing everything right. Adarabah. And that's the key to all the humility that will help us to make a Kiddush Hashem. Because if we walk around thinking we own the place, spiritually and physically, materially, we're zeiches the shtei shulchanos, we're perfect, we have everything good. Taka, we are good people, but we shouldn't walk around thinking like that. And if we walk around thinking about that, then we're going to lose the goodness. But if we realize that oisa vakesh, that we're missing something, we have to seek out, and we have to ask, and want, and desire, and beg, please Hashem, let me have this, let me enjoy a mitzvah, let me have a geschmack from a mariv, from a mincha. That geschmack could be something, a meni heshmei rabba, that you think, a meni heshmei rabba, olam umei maya, that when you're saying those words, you're connecting to infinity, to netzach netzachim, umei maya. That's a gewaldige thing. You have a geschmack from something like that. Even yesterday you didn't have, and today you can have. That's that oisa vakesh. And through that, and the same thing by Yemeni Eish Merab, is also an Indian of Kiddush Hashem, of having in mind to be Mekadosh Shem Shemayim. In that way, we can not, Chas v'Shalom, we shouldn't have to worry, even though, of course, it's a gewaldige thing to die a martyr's death. Rabbi Akiva, all the martyrs, they live on they're on the highest realm of heaven, the highest worlds in Shemayim, higher than anyone else. But sof kol sof, we hope we shouldn't have to have such a thing. As much as Rabbi Akiva looked forward to it, yes, it's not the way to live our life, but rather, although we can think about that and we can be mekayim that the way the Rebbe Melech said, but rather, like the Maggid told the Beis Yosef, it's not that you're going to give your life as a martyr al Kiddush Hashem, but you give your life al Kiddush Hashem, whatever we do, and we should look at all the good things we do. We help people, we volunteer in the community, do mitzvahs, all the things. It should make us feel good, but we should never be happy. We should always be asking for more. Yesh meir eretz Messiah. When you have 100, you want 200. And when it comes to mitzvahs, that's a good thing. We should be worthy to always want more and more and ask for more and more spirituality. Lachsis b'nayim Hashem levak v'choloi.